Ascent Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Connect by Dale Carnegie and Associates, narrated by Dan Strutzel. Publisher's note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to graphics present in the print and e-book formats of the book. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. Dale Carnegie. Forward by Joe Hart, CEO of Dale Carnegie and Associates. Early in my career, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it impacted me profoundly. Most importantly, it helped me realize that I could be much more effective in my interactions with others if I applied the timeless and powerful principles put forth in Dale Carnegie's classic book. For 25 years, I developed these skills and saw my personal and professional relationships flourish. I became very good at listening, looking people in the eye, being empathetic, and offering a friendly smile to others. And then 2020 and COVID-19 hit. Overnight, things changed for me and for all of us. When we couldn't leave our homes, go to our places of work, or even see the smiles of our friends and colleagues from behind their masks, our personal connections with other people suffered. Add to that the changes in social dynamics driven by a hyper-polarized political climate, vaccine and mask mandates, and other hot-button issues, and it's been harder than ever to know what to say to someone you're just meeting for the first time, or even whether or not you should shake their hand. The good news is that the basic principles of how we create and nurture relationships has not changed, even if it looks a bit different and requires more hand sanitizer. We still need to focus on building connection, cooperating with others, and getting along. In short, we need to work our way through the rapid changes and curves that the world throws at us. Human beings aren't wired to operate independently. Living the life of a hermit on a subsistence farm without other people around us is likely not what any of us would choose. We are social beings who create mutually beneficial relationships to survive, thrive, and enjoy life. Think about the person who is closest to you. Perhaps a significant other, a family member, a lifelong best friend, or a mentor. And imagine if they'd never been in your life. For most of us, it's not a happy thought. The good news is that they are there for you, and you're there for them. And because of that, your life is richer and fuller. So is theirs. This book is about helping you improve your life by creating and building stronger relationships with other people, whether it's at home or work, in person or virtually. It offers insights that can enable you to achieve your full potential thanks to the support and friendship of others. Dale Carnegie recognized that everyone has inherent greatness. Our work at Dale Carnegie Training is all about bringing that greatness out so that everyone can see it. Continuing his work, we change how people see themselves so they can change how the world sees them, and that changes the impact that they have on the world. It's work about which we're passionate, and it's work that no one can do alone, which is why we all need to continually build and develop connections with others. We're excited to see what you'll bring to the world with the new connections you'll build based on what you learn in this book. How to use this book. Every morning, in virtually every country on the planet, Dale Carnegie trainers are preparing to share the timeless messages created by our founder, Dale Carnegie. Whether we are connecting with members of the public, workers in Fortune 500 companies, or anyone in between, the lessons and skills taught have been improving and empowering people for 85 years. When we consider the societal changes that have happened globally since How to Win Friends and Influence People was originally published in 1937, it becomes apparent that the message from that book and the training that came from it never go out of date. They are truly timeless. The human relations principles that are the foundation of our work can be applied in a variety of settings, from our homes to our places of worship, from the classroom to the boardroom. When we learn how to truly connect with one another, we can move mountains. As you listen to this book, you'll discover ways to apply the information that you might not have considered before. We find ourselves making interesting connections in the most surprising places. When we focus on creating genuine connections, the entire tone of our lives become happier and more fulfilling. Brief encounters leave us with a smile, and we find ourselves feeling a little less lonely in an otherwise isolating world. Since we assume that you're listening to this to somehow improve your ability to connect with others, we'd offer a few tips for interacting with this book. 1. The proven Dale Carnegie Performance Change Pathway offers some insights to set us up for success. Be aware of your goals. Since this book is in your hands, we know you want to change. Having an emotional commitment with something at stake, success, happiness, friends, effectiveness, etc., will ensure you take action. As you listen to this book, connect what you're hearing to how you see yourself and what you want to accomplish. Commit to experience learning. No one has all the answers, so if we're listening to this to confirm what we already know, we might as well go do something else. Just like a Dale Carnegie training program is intense and can take us out of our comfort zone, this book may make some suggestions, or we might make some links to the content that makes us uncomfortable. These are the things we should pay attention to. If we think, I don't think I could do that, or I don't think I want to, then that may be the thing that really shifts our behavior and our performance. Let's be sure to make notes, highlight, flag, dog-ear, or underline those things that strike us as relevant and useful. Sustain the learning. When we finish the book, let's not just put it back on the shelf and go back to the old ways. No, let's create a way to keep the learning alive. Let's commit to creating time on our schedules to make connections. Find a partner who will hold us accountable to our goals. For example, a friend, a mentor, a manager, a significant other, a relative. And check in with us periodically to see how we're doing. We may be surprised at how people around us will support us when we ask for help and demonstrate that we're willing to work to improve. 2. Make notes. Whether we're using an e-reader or a paper copy, feel free to liberally underline, highlight those parts of the books that are interesting, intriguing, or useful. Let's flag those parts of the book that are relevant so that we can review them quickly. We shouldn't think of this as some pristine manuscript that we can't alter. Let's make it our own and think of it as a workbook. 3. At the end of each chapter, we should ask ourselves if we're ready to move on, or if we need to review what we've just heard. It's not a race to finish. It's about understanding and integrating the content so that we can give it a try to improve our performance. 4. Teach someone else. A great way to learn something new is to teach it to someone else. When we find something that resonates with us, let's take time to share it with someone else, not in a formal classroom setting, but perhaps over a meal, while sharing a cup of coffee, while in the car, or when taking a walk. As we hear ourselves share, we'll make new connections. 5. Review the book again. As parts of the book become habits, we should review the entire book, or at least the underlining, highlighting, to see what parts we could still integrate into our practices. 6. Relate the content to our lives. As we go through the book, let's ask ourselves how we might have handled the situation, or how we might put this into practice to help achieve our connection goals. As Dale Carnegie said, knowledge isn't power until it's applied. Let's apply what we learn later. 5 things this book will help you achieve that will make you a better person. 1. Become a better listener. 2. Handle conflict more easily. 3. Discover the secrets to trusting relationships. 4. Engage with others virtually. 5. Build stronger relationships. 30 Principles from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. At the core of everything we do at Dale Carnegie Training is the foundation of the human relations principles that Dale Carnegie created many years ago. It amazes us how relevant these ideas are to modern life. In fact, if we are faced with a challenge, all we need to do is to look at these principles and see how it can improve the situation. Here are the classic principles that truly have stood the test of time. Build connection. Be a friendlier person. 1. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. 2. Give honest, sincere appreciation. 3. Arouse in the other person an eager want. 4. Become genuinely interested in other people. 5. Smile. 6. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. 7. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. 8. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. 9. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Gain cooperation. Win people to your way of thinking. 10. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. 11. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You're wrong." 12. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. 13. Begin in a friendly way. 14. Get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. 15. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. 16. Let the other person feel the idea is his or hers. 17. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. 18. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. 19. Appeal to the nobler motives. 20. Dramatize your ideas. 21. Throw down a challenge. Create change. Be a leader. 22. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. 23. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. 24. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. 25. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. 26. Let the other person save face. 27. Praise the slightest improvements and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. 28. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. 29. Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct. 30. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Advice from the Masters. When researching this book, we interviewed several of our own subject matter experts on the topic of connection. We asked them, if you were to give one piece of advice to someone on how to become better at connecting with others, what would it be? Here are some of their answers. Ursel Charles, VP of Customer Transformation in Carnegie Master. Not connecting with others can be caused by not listening, being open, respecting, appreciating, seeking the other person's point of view. Instead, we need empathetic listening and need to be humble enough to listen. This is the basis for finding common ground. Nigel Alston, trainer. Connecting with others is actually based on a formula. The quality of relationships are a function of the quality and consistency of the contact over time. We all have relationships with people we've known for years, but either the quality of that contact isn't great or we don't really see them consistently. The best relationships are made when you have high-quality contacts with a person consistently over time. George Cantafio, trainer. My best piece of advice is this: it's not about you. Listen more, talk less, and be yourself. If you are genuinely interested in the other person, you'll build a connection. So many people, when they meet someone new for the first time, start talking about themselves. I'm from Florida and have 3 kids and love to fish. Instead, ask the other person where they live, what their family is like, and what they love to do. You can find common ground when you listen more than when you talk. Rebecca Collier, Carnegie Master. When I was growing up, I went to 13 different schools. I was always the new person at school and had to learn how to connect with others pretty quickly. It's important to develop relationships and to get as much information as you can, especially when it's a different culture than you're familiar with. Expect that they will be different from you and approach it with an attitude of curiosity. Different doesn't mean bad or good, it's just different. When you approach differences with an open attitude of asking and being curious, you can build relationships much more easily. Grace Dagris, senior trainer. Over the past few years, we have all been called upon not to only change, but find a way to engage in a virtual world. It's important to remember one's own mindset and attitude and see yourself as unapologetically human. I like to call it flawsome. Our flaws are what make us awesome. To make connections, we have to make every interaction about the other person. It's about finding success together. It really does go back to the human relations principles. A person's name is the sweetest sound. Ask them how to pronounce their name. See things from the other person's point of view. Make an effort to understand the other person and where they're coming from. Always remember, it's not about you, it's about them. Andreas Ifland, Carnegie Master. Mr. Carnegie wrote that we can win more friends in 2 months by being interested in others than we can in 2 years otherwise. 90% of the time, we ask closed-ended questions that reflect assumptions we're making that we want confirmation on. It's the same when we ask questions that have alternatives. Do you prefer X or Y? You aren't leaving any room for actual conversation. Instead, ask open-ended questions and then build on their responses. Once you get the response to an open-ended question, you can ask, "Why did that happen?" Or, "Tell me more about that." That's the way to make true connections with others. Robert Johnston, Master Trainer. It all goes back to the principle, become genuinely interested in the other person. We've all heard that a million times, but when you look at it a little more deeply, you see why the advice is timeless. First, Dale Carnegie says become genuinely interested, not be. There's a difference. Be is something that you do. Become is something that you are. Embedded in this advice to become is the assumption that we aren't already genuinely interested in the other person. It's a mindset, not an action. It's an identity. I am a person who is genuinely interested in other people. It also says genuinely interested. Think about what you're like when you are genuinely interested in something. We want to know more about it. We're interested to learn and ask a lot of questions and seek additional information. We need to do that with other people. Dig beneath the surface to find similarities. Get a deeper understanding of the other person. It's a lot harder to hate someone you have something in common with. David Kabikoff, trainer. The pandemic required many of us to wear masks. But it's not only a physical mask that people wear, it's an emotional one as well. In our training classes, one of the first things we do is to help people take off their masks. Not literally, of course, but the mask of identity that we all have that's based on the image we want to project to the world. Real transformation occurs when we let our guard down and give another person the opportunity to build trust. The true value in training doesn't come from the content. It comes from learning to take ourselves out of the equation and put the other person first in our mindset. When we find out about another person, then we can trust them. Jane Leadham, Carnegie Master. Somebody gave me this advice years ago. Whenever you go anywhere where there are strangers, imagine you're hosting a party. You want everyone to feel comfortable and welcome and appreciated for being there. It's not about you and what everyone thinks of you. It's a way to step outside of yourself and to focus on the other people in the room and how you can make them feel comfortable and connected with each other. Tom Mangan, Master Trainer. My best piece of advice is, don't try to do it on your own. Ask for introductions to people you want to connect with. Make introductions between other people. No one knows what you're selling, for example, unless you are able to make and have connections with other people. But it's not just about vertical communication. Yes, it's important to move from topic to topic in a conversation with another person. But it's just as important to have horizontal communication. Stay with the topic of conversation at hand long enough to go deep. That's where you make genuine connections. We get so hung up on the transaction and what we're going to get out of the interaction. Instead, ask, why should I care? Ask questions in a conversational way with the collaborative attitude that we are problem solvers. Surround yourself with people who will mention your name. Laura Nortz, Master Trainer. My best advice is for people to listen to understand. Find out what other people need and see if you can be of service to them in some way. By being others-focused and engaged with the other person, you are listening to find out what their values are and where the commonalities are there. Listen to find out who that person is, what's important to them, what their goals are, what are they trying to accomplish now. Not every conversation is going to be a deep, meaningful conversation, but when you listen to understand, you connect. Rena Parent, Master Trainer. The advice I'm going to tell you comes from a really strong-rooted belief that our inner world is more powerful than our outer world. The power within us is ultimately the power we can manifest outside of us. And because we're talking about connection, it's really the connection within. You've probably heard or seen that visual image of the tip of the iceberg. Right. We see the tip. That's the outer world. But the power of the iceberg is under. If we spend time within first, getting our mind aligned with our heart, meaning that our thoughts are coherent with our emotions, it's really making ourselves before we meet others. When we do that, we set ourselves up with an elevated probability of good connection. Antoinette Robinson, Trainer. For someone who wants to improve their ability to connect with others, I suggest first looking into how they connect with themselves. According to Mr. Carnegie, somehow we lose our true essence, our inner child, as we enter the adult world. This loss may be referred to as imposter syndrome or covering. I assert that this is a loss of connection to one's true essence. To fit in, many of us forfeit the higher self, resulting in mediocre lives and failed relationships. If one is not making genuine connections, one should check their heart, emotional intelligence, and self-connection ability to determine whether there is an internal disconnect present. Jeff Scheimer, Master Trainer. When it comes to being better at connecting with others, you need to be thinking of developing lifelong relationships. There was a Harvard study that looked at people's relationships over an entire lifetime, and they found that the key to long life, health, success, etc., was the strength of the person's relationships with others. It was a better predictor of longevity than cholesterol. This doesn't mean it's going to be easy. We have to invest time and concerted effort in building these lifelong relationships. But if you start out with the intent that you're going to build a relationship that lasts, and then invest time in staying connected, the outcome will be positive both for you and the other person. Frank Starkey, Master Trainer. I got this from one of my mentors here in Dale Carnegie, John Adams. One of the things that he taught me was that Principle 1 from How to Win Friends is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And people have a tendency to criticize, condemn, and complain. One day he asked me, "What's the opposite of criticism?" I said, "Appreciation." He taught me, "No, the opposite of criticism is understanding." Going through these words of advice from those who teach, practice, and live the wisdom of this book, we can see themes that emerge and threads that this book weaves to create connections. Before moving on, take a moment to listen to the advice from the masters and look for threads that are new and relevant to the connections you're seeking to build. 3/4 of the people you will meet are hungering for sympathy. Give it to them, and they will love you. Dale Carnegie. Introduction. Ernie was feeling nervous as he walked into the conference room. It had been a long time since he'd been around this many people. It wasn't a health concern on his mind. Everyone had taken the proper protocols, and he felt safe physically. It was the social part of it. The rules of engagement seemed to have changed since 2020, and he was unsure how to make connections with strangers. But this was a networking meeting, and that's what he was here to do. He'd barely gotten his name tag on when someone came up to him and looked at his name tag. "Hi, Ernie. I'm Barb." Should he extend his hand for a handshake? What kinds of questions were okay to ask these days in a work setting? She extended her hand and introduced herself. "I'm in marketing. We focus on creating synergistic opportunities between..." Ernie noticed that while she was talking, her eyes were kind of scanning the room. She had a professional smile on her face and made eye contact with him, but her speech felt very practiced and unnatural. "Tell me about your business," she said. Ernie described his company, and she had an attentive look on her face, at least from what he could tell. She said all the right things, and the conversation lasted long enough to be professionally acceptable. She gave Ernie her business card and then moved on to someone else. Well, this is what networking is, I suppose, Ernie thought as he went on to get a sparkling water. Some things never change. Some things never change, but some things need to change. At Dale Carnegie Training, we agree that some things never change. After all, the timeless principles that our founder Dale Carnegie established are still as practical and relevant today.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?